Hey guys, what's up? What's going on? Mike here with your intro to the podcast. So first of all, Happy New Year. It's 2019 and we're still kicking. Like Joe told you last week, our first live show of the new year will be on Sunday, January 27th at the 2019 Everything is Awesome Headstrong Comedy Festival in support of the Headstrong Foundation, which provides essential services to improve lives affected by cancer. The festival is taking place at 4 different venues in Philadelphia, all of them within walking distance of South Street. And our set will be at 3 p.m. at South Street Cinema. Admission is free, but donations are obviously suggested, so come early to check out all the great podcasts performing, make a donation, and even participate in our live show. Once again, that's Sunday, January 27th at 3 p.m. at South Street Cinema in Philly. Mark your calendars. Anyway, this week we've got a great episode for you. Joining us once again to review The Favorite is film critic and filmmaker Scout Tafoya, creator of the unloved video essay series and countless of his own films. We had a blast recording this, so please enjoy our drunken review of The Favorite featuring Scout Tafoya.
Hi, I'm Mike.
And I'm Joe.
And you're listening to How Many Fingers Am I Holding Up, the podcast. And this week, we're reviewing The Favorite.
Hey Mike, what was the favorite part of this movie?
Please don't. Welcome to How Many Fingers Am I Holding Up, featuring two guys getting bonked and reviewing movies in a weekly podcast form.
And thank you to Andrew Lister, who left that synonym for getting drunk for us on Facebook.
Yes, thank you so much, Andrew.
Thanks, Andrew.
And if you have any further synonym suggestions, you can suggest those on any of our social media. We'd love to hear from you and get you on the podcast. But let us delay no further. Betwixt us for the second time on this podcast, the return, Scout Tafoya.
What's
up?
Welcome back. What's up? So happy to fucking be here.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, so what have you been up to these past... Ooh, man, we haven't had you on since...
I believe it was Nocturnal Animals.
Yes.
Was
Nocturnal
like,
Animals.
Late 2016?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shit. Nothing has happened. I've been in...
Absolutely nothing. I've just been waiting for this next
I
podcast.
left that podcast and then it was just black for 2 years.
I paid Disney to put me in the freezer. It cracked me open for this one. Have you guys used Rip to the Tits yet for drunk synonyms?
Oh, I
No,
haven't.
you want to submit that?
I did want to submit that
All
one.
right.
Count that as an
Put
honor.
the
Rip to the Tits.
Put that in.
That was what I used to hear when we used to vacation at Martha's Vineyard. You get all the drunk firemen out there. We gotta go out and watch the fireworks by the fucking sound. Gotta get ripped to the tits out there. It's my childhood for you. No, it's been nuts. I think I've released like 10 movies since I've spoken to you guys.
Jesus,
I
man.
I know.
You're on a tear.
It's a problem. Yeah, no, you can find my work now on Amazon Prime. You can find my movies,
Nice.
Enjoy Your Trip to Hell, House of Little Deaths, Your Silent Face, and Diana on Amazon Prime. I have a bunch of movies on Vimeo on demand. I started my own podcast, which is the Psychotronic Companion, where I go through the Psychotronic Encyclopedia of Film and discuss the history of Grindhouse.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. It's
Yeah, I
just...
listened to the intro in the first episode, but is anything else come out after that? Or-
The second episode is due very early next month. It's going to be about William Girdler, who's one of my favorite trash filmmakers. He was the guy that, like, Italy had 1,000 of these people that whenever something made money, they'd be like, hey, can you make that for nothing?
Right, yeah.
Yeah, sure. William Girdler was like that in America. He did, when Jaws came out, he made Grizzly. When The Exorcist came out, he made Abby. He was like right there. And the sad thing about William Girdler, well, I mean, there are many sad things about him, but the most sad thing is that he really, like, thought he was doing good work. Like, his last movie was The Manitou, where Susan Strasberg grows a Native American gremlin in a shoulder hump.
Oh, no.
Tony Curtis has to exercise it with the help of, I believe, Will Sampson. It's not a good movie, but he sure thought it was going to be. And then he died in a helicopter accident in the Philippines.
Ooh, interesting.
Not great.
Yeah.
Not great, William. So yeah, it's about the weird corners of like Grindhouse and 42nd Street filmmaking. So it's like I don't think that I'm stepping on anyone else's podcast's toes, which was very important.
I think it's pretty niche.
Gotta get that niche market.
Exactly, because I didn't want to I have so many I've been on so many film podcasts because I love them. I love listening to them. I love being on them. Like, I was so happy you guys had me back on here because it like really motivated me to come back to Doylestown and see everybody for the holiday. But like, I didn't want to just like do what y'all did because you guys do it well and everybody does their thing very well. So I wanted it to be something, you know, specific that I knew no one else was going to get to. So like,
definitely,
Karina does You Must Remember This, which is Hollywood history. So I was just like just to the left of the dial on that stuff. So. Yeah, and then did you know I released 62 video essays this year?
62? Holy shit! That's
more than once a week. Yeah, shit.
Yeah, I didn't even realize that. Jeez.
I did the math the other day, and I was like, you need to get out more. You dumb idiot. But yeah, so been busy. You can find me on Patreon, patreon.com/honorszombie. Yeah, so there's been stuff, but yeah. So there you go.
There's plenty of Scout Tafoya out
Lots
there.
Of content.
Lot to consume. Lot of tent.
Lot of tent. Slinging that tent, as they say.
And you're still at Roger Ebert, right?
I still do, yes.
I just read the review on, what the fuck was it called?
The Peter Jackson doc?
Yes.
Yeah, that was fun.
I don't think I was sold on that until I read your review. I was like, I gotta... Yeah, but is that like a limited release or something?
It is a limited release. I think that it should... Okay, so they released it in England online, which is how I found it first. So I had a lot of time to sit with it and think about the review, which was like needed because it's a lot of movie for 90 minutes.
Oh, geez. Yeah.
It's intense and it's beautiful. But yeah, so that was for them. And I think that basically it's going to play a couple of theaters in New York and LA, and then we'll go to the internet where a lot of America will see it, which is totally fine because that's how I saw it. I saw it on my TV. That was my, and I don't think it loses anything in the translation.
Okay, good.
There. The sound design is terrific. They really, really did their homework. They hired lip readers to get the things that people are saying in the old footage, and yeah, it's I
didn't know they were adding sound to it as well.
Oh yeah.
It's and they like it. It's a great document in so many ways, not least of which because first of all, and I note this in the review, seeing clear blue skies over war footage is so incongruous and strange and necessary because it's one of those things. It's kind of like documents of school shootings, like the weather in school shootings and stuff like that really does kind of, for people who can't contextualize it based on things that they've experienced in their own life, really the sky kind of helps people sell that, where you look up and there it is, and that's the thing that was over your head at that moment. That, I think, kind of drives it home. It certainly did for me in a lot of ways.
Yeah, because, so much black and white footage, just it looks like it's foggy the entire time.
That was exactly the thing. Is like, Path to Glory, Lost City of Z, War Horse. The way that we frame World War I in motion pictures is gray, disgusting, muddy days. Yeah. Because I think, in a way, it helps us. If the weather itself rebels against the act and you can't see everything because of the clouds and the mud and the the fog and everything, and like it just makes it seem like a more alien force. But to see it, man, on clear blue skies and people just running headlong into this very odd yellow like mustard gas cloud, it's just it's rough, and I think it's rough in a way we need to see. Like I think they did a really stellar thing here because like with something like The Two Towers, or even the Hobbit movies, like Battle of the Five Armies, there is a certain valor attached to surviving. And I think that this movie really goes the extra step towards saying, when this really happens, there is no valor. It's a job that people, lower class people, were called to do, people with no money who couldn't get out of it because World War I was orchestrated by all of the billionaires of Europe, most of whom were cousins. And so you could just have these guys, these like, and that it's all English voices, I think is especially important to the, the context of that film because, these guys didn't really understand anything other than we were called up and we did the thing we were asked to do. And so you're just going to get through it. And if the Germans fucking murder us, then there it is. Right. And so I think that this film is a sobering reminder of, the kind of pulling back just enough to see the whole machinery of war and how horrible it is. So I highly recommend that. And thank you guys so much for reading my review. That's very nice.
Oh, no, yeah, I was happy to read it, yeah.
So I just did so I do the essays for Roger Ebert. I just did the 5th year anniversary. I released a movie for that, which was a lot of fun. Like feature length Unloved.
Right, yeah.
And I'll let you guys hear this one. 61 is going to be The Predator, because I fucking love that movie. It's a stupid movie that I like a lot.
All right, let's drink.
All right.
Shall we?
We've been
drinking, but let's continue. Let's not stop.
Oh, let's start, shall we?
Yeah, so what'd you get for us, Mike?
We're drinking Hell's Golden Lager from Sly Fox.
Fuck yeah.
Bavarian style golden lager with the pull tab top.
The pull tab is making my day.
It's cool. It feels right.
In the movie I made for the Unloved, the 5th year anniversary, I included clips of Dawn of the Dead because it's like my favorite movie of all time. And in it, they're drinking the Iron City beer with a pull tab. So this is awesome. I'm so happy to have pull tab beer.
Yeah.
You brought me a Sly Fox when we were celebrating my birthday one year that had the pull tab, and it like blew my mind the first time I saw it. I was like,
Yeah. It's like it's practically a party trick kind of. It's just kind of like I show up.
Everybody, check this out.
It's like I show up with like a 12-pack of something that has like a pull tab, and people are like, "What is this?" I'm like, "It's a fucking icebreaker." No, I'm kidding. It's a beer. Let's talk. Yeah, and it's good beer too. I think they do this on like three of their brews.
What do you call an ice auger? A good way to break the ice. Bob Nelson, good to meet you.
You son of a bitch. Joe, you want to give me that IMDb description, and then we'll start to delve into the favorite.
I would love to. In early 18th century England, a frail Queen Anne occupies the throne, and her close friend Sarah, or Lady Sarah, governs the country in her stead.
Her mighty steed.
When a new servant, Abigail, arrives, her charm endears her to Sarah.
That's a little clunky, IMDb.
I read that really clunkily, too. That didn't help.
Not great.
All right, so I got some very quick, sparse notes for this. We got Yorgos Lanthimos, who's a Greek director, directed this. Most notably, he's done Dogtooth, Alps, The Lobster, and Killing of a Sacred Deer.
What was Alps?
Alps is
I'm not
awesome.
sure. Yeah.
If I briefly, is a film he made right after Dogtooth, and it's got one of the lead actresses from that. It is a movie about a small covenant of people who get together to impersonate recently deceased family members and lovers.
Oh, I've read about this.
For people who haven't yet processed grief. Very good stuff.
Is that Greek language or?
Yes.
Okay.
This was he was working in Greek for his first 3 films: Canetta and Dogtooth and Alps, and then with The Lobster, I believe that was his first English language film.
I still have to see Dogtooth, but Lobster and Killing of Sacred Deer are the only ones I saw.
Yes, those are in English, and those are very much. Oh, it's funny. Canetta is more of an experiment, grammatically speaking, rather than tonally, which I think he still experiments with all the time. Canetta is the least like him, I will say, based on what he became. It's obvious because it's his first film, but there's long passages of silence and stuff like that. It's not a bad film, and his eye for compositions was there kind of right away. But Dogtooth was like, here I am, here's what I do.
And that was Oscar nominated, right?
It's foreign language. Yeah.
Foreign language film? Was it really? Wow.
Yeah.
That's forward thinking of them. That movie is dark as hell.
Oh, yeah. I talked about it a lot on our Lobster review.
It's like if Michael Haneke was Dennis the Menace.
Now I definitely want to see it.
It's good stuff. I like it. I remember I watched that at Emerson actually for the first time. My friends Sean and Tucker, they're like insisted we see it, and we all loved it. It was so good.
Oh yeah, that's. I don't know. We'll talk about it. Yeah. Just because. Yeah.
This was written by Deborah Davis, who has no other credits. This was her first screenplay. Supposedly she was taking classes to figure out how to write this screenplay. And then I'm guessing some doctoring on the screenplay was done by Tony McNamara.
That's right.
Who was a writer for a bunch of TV shows. None of them that I recognize, but I just want to point out that there was a TV show called Puberty Blues.
Is that like Big Mouth Australian style?
And Ashby, which I guess was a feature that he wrote as well. So that's basically all I got for notes. You guys can feel free to sprinkle any knowledge you have of the film throughout.
Yeah. I was saying, we have, join it if you may. We have, again, you can like us on Facebook, but we also just have like a movie discussion group. How many fingers am I holding up? Facebook group or whatever. And I think I posted the trailer for this in there, and I was like, this is weird. This is directed by Yorgos Lanthimos. who we love and everything. But again, like I had seen Dogtooth, which was different from, I think, The Lobster and Killing of the Sacred Deer. It's not with A24, which he had been doing and everything.
A24. Oh, this movie is not with A24.
Right, yeah.
Okay,
This movie's not. So I was just kind of like, this is weird, kind of. And then later I read into it, kind of, and it was kind of...
This was Annapurna, or...
I don't think so.
No, it was
like Fox
Searchlight. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think it was Fox Searchlight. But it was just kind of. I think this movie had been in the works. They had been trying to get this. This screenplay's been in circulation since the early 90s.
1998.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, later 90s then, and then I think a producer was really hellbent on getting this film made. And then I think maybe they approach Yorgos
after Dogtooth.
After Dogtooth, like at the Academy Awards or something. But again, I don't think it was ever really like a sure thing. I think it was just kind of like
they didn't start until 2015.
We met, but then like literally like a day or maybe the same day that they just started casting and announcing the actors, I think they also announced him as a director. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of weird too, because he's just been writing all of his own stuff. I don't know if
I say this is the first one he's done that he hasn't had a hand in the screenplay.
So
it feels like a break in many ways, because it is not the kind of, I mean, like a guy like him who has such a particular tonal range, you kind of expect a sort of exacting approach to everything and having very, like moving pieces, like, a dollhouse. That's kind of the approach for guys like him. Like when Wes Anderson was starting, you wouldn't just suddenly expect him to work for another distributor out of nowhere and write based on somebody else's material. You kind of expect these guys to have total control over everything, because they're,
or to do like a period piece that's an Oscar favorite.
Right,
like, that's
exactly.
weird.
Well, the funny thing about that, and I that's ultimately what I like most about this movie, is that though it is an Oscar contender and all this stuff, and it sort of has the trappings of respectability, it's still him in its meanness. It's still him in its formal oddness.
It's his most accessible, for sure.
Which is interesting.
It's weird that he didn't write it, because it also, like, watching the trailer for this and then finally seeing it, I was like, this feels like a passion project.
Yeah,
like,
it does.
Everything is so well done. It's so weird to me that he didn't write this, that he was just like, it's some studio gig that he did. Like, that's strange.
Is it's historically, like, and again, I imagine because when you put it through two writers and 20 years almost of anticipation, you're going to get those things right. It's historically very accurate.
Yes.
I mean, obviously, all the dialogue is what's the word I'm looking for? It's fabulism. It's not real. It's invented all that. Obviously, the tone is very him. Which I think is probably why they approached him, because they had this thing where somebody writes the screenplay, and then I am guessing Tony McNamara, who I think is, he's Australian, right?
Oh,
I don't know.
I should know this.
Australian, yes.
Yeah, yes. So he came to New York Film Festival with the director and a couple of the actors to do the Q&A.
Is that where you saw this?
Yes, that's where I saw this.
And what was your experience seeing this?
It was
right after this,
So obviously he and Joe Alwyn and Nick Holt and Rachel Weisz, Olivia Colman, and Emma Stone all came out to the Q&A. The New York Film Festival Q&As are hilarious to me, because they get everybody important involved with the movie, and they get them in a room, and they ask them the stupidest questions they've ever asked.
Geez,
and you can see, and like, so the New York Film Festival Selection Committee has narrowed in the past few years to basically be 5 people. Mm-hmm. I don't know the other 3, but I know that Kent Jones and Dennis Lim are on this committee. Mm-hmm. Amy Taubin used to be. I don't believe she is anymore. I think they fired her. But anyway, don't take that as gospel. That's just like gossip. But it's funny to me to think of Kent Jones and Dennis Lim. They get these people in here to make these, to present their movies and all that, and then they ask them exactly one question that they've thought up, and it's very smart, and then they ask them, and then they throw to the audience. And there are no good audience questions at the New York Film Festival. They had Abdurrahman Sissako there for Timbuktu. This is my favorite bad audience moment. Timbuktu was the only movie made by a black director in the 2014 New York Film Festival. I'm reasonably certain that that's true. If I'm wrong, it can't be by more than one filmmaker.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So they have this guy in. He doesn't come to the States often. Mm-hmm. He is in traditional garb. Mm-hmm. And they sit him down, and they've just shown this incredible movie, this very, very, just this aching tract about justice. And they sit him down, and the first question is from a man named Kurt Brokaw. Kurt Brokaw, charitably 130 years old.
Oh, no.
And he grabs the microphone and goes, "First of all, I want to say your movie was very professionally done." I stood up and I go, "Are you fucking kidding me?" But like, so like I'm 30 rows back or whatever, and so everyone, "Are you fucking kidding me?" And then I just leave. Just like,
oh boy,
only black director, and you're gonna tell him this movie was professional. He's been directing for 30 years.
yeah.
What's the matter with you? So that is like how my relationship with the festival Q&A started. So I wasn't expecting greatness with this Q&A, but everybody was like fine. But it was interesting to hear Tony McNamara and Yorgos Lanthimos speak a very different language about this material and adapting it and stuff like that. Where
that's interesting.
Yeah, it was. To hear him, who clearly got this screenplay and kind of molded it and made it very specific, and you can tell, I think the language is very, very particular.
Right.
It's very clever, and it's cutthroat and wry and everything. And then you get a director who I think really wants to treat that stuff very seriously because that's his wheelhouse. That's what he loves to deal with.
Oh, right.
The very malicious particulars of interpersonal communication, especially when there are systems in place. You see it in The Lobster. It's the hotel management and the people. In Alps, it's the structure of we do this job for people, but the people are still our boss. In Dogtooth, it's the parents down to the children. And so, like, he does really respect that. And he does great things with it. Like, whatever my complaints about Killing of a Sacred Deer, I think it's got a lot of really, really great moments where you see the breakdown between people who think they're in control versus who they think they're in control of. And so seeing The Favorite was terrific because the stuff that people usually lob as complaints against Yorgos Lanthimos weren't really true at a structural level because he didn't come up with it. He just took a script and he did his thing to it with the fisheye and the kind of all the everybody covered in shit all the time like it's a Monty Python sketch.
Yeah.
But I feel like he directed it differently too, because like a lot of his like direction with the other movies, like Lobster especially, but definitely in Killing of a Sacred Deer, he kind of directs everyone to deliver dialogue at the same sort of like dry pitch, so that you can understand like how abstract dialogue can be. But then in this, like it feels more real, and that's why I think it ends up being more accessible. Like it's still dry, but it's not like Colin Farrell being like, "Oh, do you want to do what's like the sex,
the hand job thing or whatever?" Yeah.
But it's also like one of those things where I think this is completely. I mean, I didn't see the Alps, but like I feel like this is his only like period piece that he's done. It's a completely different ballpark kind of.
It is. It takes place in a more tactile reality, and I think he announces that by throwing Emma Stone into mud in her introductory scene, whereas before it sort of takes place in this kind of nether world where like Alps and Dogtooth and The Lobster, there really isn't any sign that this is taking place anytime at all. It could be the future, or it could be 20 years ago.
Definitely.
There aren't really cell phones and all that stuff. It's more about the very strange ways in which people relate to one another. So you guys are definitely on to something with that. And that's kind of why it's so fun, is because they handed a maniac a screenplay and just said, do what you're going to do. And he did it. And I think he clicked into the sadism.
Right.
And did a great job with that. But he had a really game cast. Like Nicholas Hoult is having a blast.
And he's
Rachel
so
Weisz.
great, yeah.
He's so underrecognized.
God, he's
like,
fucking terrific.
Even if you take him in like Mad Max Fury Road, like,
right? Nobody really.
Where was the acclaim for that?
No, I agree. It's funny. That was a movie that like everybody loved, but because it's so strange, they couldn't do to it what they would a prestige film.
Yeah.
Right.
We're slowly getting over that hump. Like obviously, you guys were talking about this earlier, where Black Panther is in line to win a bunch of awards. Yeah. Which would be good. I don't love Black Panther, but it would be cool to see it win some awards because it's so strange. It's not a typical awards movie. And I think that this is awesome because on paper it looks like an awards movie, this very particular moment in history, and you're getting it through 3 or 4 characters, but it's fucking funny.
Oh yeah, like dude, like the audience when I saw this at the Steel Stacks in Bethlehem. And a bunch of like old people in the audience, and like the moment the credits started rolling, every one of them picked up their coats and walked out. They wanted to walk out, but they're like, I'm gonna finish this, but not a second longer.
That's awesome.
That's so awesome.
Man. Oh fuck, that's great.
Oh man, that was
it pulled in people who thought they were getting something much different.
Yeah, because they
didn't think they were coming into like a lesbian royalty movie.
I think that.
I think that's why they had difficulty making it in the 90s. They were like, nobody's going to take this kind of like lesbian.
Yes.
Like. So that's why it took so long to make, And
I think the Australian-ness of it, at least as far as Tony McNamara's kind of draft of it, is very present.
Yeah.
Cunt struck is not something you hear in an American film. It's not something you hear in an English film.
Right.
That is an Australian turn of phrase. One of my closest friends in the world is Patrick Marlborough, who's a writer for Vice Australia and The Guardian and a handful of other places, and he has filled me in so much on what I always assumed about Australian culture because I love Australian movies. And that screenplay is like Australia 101. Like, that is very much the sensibility. And so you've got the Australia by way of England screenplay and the totally sort of almost like arch ghastliness of his Greek sensibility. Did you guys happen to see... In 2013, he made a movie for the Venice Film Festival. Venice made a compendium called The Future Reloaded, where they had every director they had in their Rolodex make them a 3-minute short film. Yorgos Lanthimos made a movie for them where it's English prep school kids in like a Barry Lyndon style duel, and one of them shoots the other, and he like has this very Baroque death scene. It's hilarious and adorable and all that. I was like, that's his sensibility. Like, he can be distilled to this 3-minute short.
Right.
And I think that this plays very much into what he does really well, which is the absurdity of communication, like you were saying about the dialogue in Killing of a Sacred Deer and in The Lobster, but also about the kind of archness and unrelatability of procedure and ceremony, where you see what looks normal to the people involved, but on the outside it's like, this is nuts.
Yeah.
And I think he does a great job of that with the court dance, which has this very awesome navigation between the modern and the ancient, where you're like, there's no way they dance like this, but it doesn't fucking matter because it's so funny. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
That's one of my favorite scenes in this movie, though, because I think he really does tap into the emotion and the sensibilities of these characters, where like Olivia Colman, who is fucking fantastic
so good
in this.
If they don't give her the award, like, come the fuck on.
Well, Lady Gaga's gonna get Hey, let me get a look at you. Let me get a look at you one more time. Oh, varmint.
Why did I cast Sam Elliott in it? We've got to sing. You stole my voice.
She's so good in this, but she is playing like a sort of semi-unlikable character. You know, she's got this cushy, privileged life as the queen, and she is kind of a bitch to some of her whatever. But in that dance scene, like, tell me you weren't like on the verge of tears when she's just that long shot of her staring at them,
amazing,
as they're dancing. Like,
I thought
that
for
moment
sure,
that scene happened, I was like, give her the fucking Oscar right now.
Right.
Well, the music too. I mean, she sees the people in the sort of courtyard, like the kids playing instruments, and she's like, "Stop it!
Yes.
Stop it!" It's some sort of like triggering thing. But yeah, no. To expand on what Scout was saying too, it is like, I love that this movie is kind of about like the performative nature of like what friendship is, kind of, especially between these three women, and it's just kind of like, even if you were to remove this from a court setting and you were to put it like in place of today or something, it's the same of just kind of like, do these people like me for
this could be like Mean Girls.
Yes,
exactly.
Is it because I have something to offer them, or do these people actually love me? And I think all three of these characters love one another at very brief moments of time, but because of the circumstances in the day of age, like the age that they're in, I think it's fucking survival. You know, it's just kind of like, you know, like, oh, they shit in the streets. You know, it's just kind of like, you want to do that, or you want to like,
tell he's a king?
You want to do that, or you want to like pleasure the queen? Like, you know, it's just like, it's survival. Yeah,
it's just pure competition. Like, there's the one scene, I forget exactly what they're doing, but they overlay the audio of them shooting the birds while she's doing some sort of more performative thing. And it's like, oh yeah, like that's what this is all about.
And it's so clear too, the hair between nothing and everything.
Yeah.
Where Rachel Weisz is immediately terrified and like has to do all this stuff to go out of her way to show that she's not a monster to the queen, and just like it's awesome, because the thing I think I'll remember more than anything is that they use this historical framework to show the fragility of ego, and like the moment where the thing that you're pretending to love, you really do find that you love, you know, where she like, obviously her life and her livelihood depends on her being in the queen's good graces, but then when she doesn't have it anymore, how important that turned out to be, and how much she still wants that thing. Well, that was like, the ending was crazy, because like on paper I think you could chart that movie pretty easily, like, so, you know, it's a triangle, it's very, very simple, but to see really what that looks like at the end of it. And I think that, like, a lot of people, I think, are going to be polarized by that beautiful last sequence with the, the overlays of the rabbits and everything like that. It kind of reminded me of Under the Skin.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is it, because it's the Ouroboros of, I don't want this, but I need this.
Mm-hmm.
Versus...
It's like Arrested Development.
Yes!
Like the fucking,
yes!
Hello, darkness, my old
Friend! Yes!
I don't want these.
Yes! I've made a huge mistake. Yeah, Emma Stone on the floor with her hand, her queen's hand on the thing. Like, that was just, like, such a lovely moment. And that's the thing. I was like, I think that this movie is great because it's sort of structuralist critique of the usual Oscar film narrative, which is to say, you've got two people in power, you throw a third person in there, blah, blah, blah. Like, you can kind of, again, you could, on paper, you would know the end of this movie. But I thought a lot of other stuff was going to happen for the sake of it happening, then did. And I was very pleasantly surprised that it didn't.
Yeah.
Like, I definitely thought that they were going to move the movie to the end of Olivia Colman's life. Because I thought, because like I wasn't aware of the history in as much as where their stories ended vis-a-vis each other. So I thought for sure that they were going to go until Olivia Colman died, not knowing the actual story.
Yeah, she's definitely getting worse throughout the whole movie.
Yeah, and so I thought that would be the thing, that it's just the two of them left at the end. But really, it's this weird, really kind of awful imbalance of power and dependency that is the last image of the movie. I was like, that's bold. And I think that is the Yorgos Lanthimos in this Prestige, kind of parody. That's the thing that comes through, is that it ends on such an uncertain passage where nobody has really gotten what they wanted and nobody knew what they wanted to begin with. I was very moved by it.
It is the perfect ending for a movie that is sort of subverting what people are expecting when they go into it. Like,
yes.
You can totally understand those old people walking the fuck out with an ending like that.
Yes.
Especially if you're going in expecting this like
Emma.
British royalty like type movie.
Shakespeare in Love.
Yeah. And then like that happens. Because like even me, like someone who is willing to go to certain places in film and appreciation of it, it took me a little bit to come around to that ending. Like it happened and I was like, I don't know. Then I sat on it for a week and I was like, oh yeah, you couldn't end this movie any other way.
I think I was still like, sure. Like I saw the whole movie and then I saw the ending and I was like, sure, and I do think there was a lot of like misdirection. One, I like to get into some of the parts I did not like about this film. One was when they are shooting at some point, and this is in like the trailer or whatever. It's kind of like this literal anti-Chekhov's gun scene where she shoots like a blank at like Emma Stone, and she's like. She even says at some point, like
the pellet or whatever.
Right? No, yeah. She goes on and she explains how she did it, which is kind of explained to the audience.
And she says that might be useful to us.
Yes, exactly. And she says that might be useful to us at some point. And I thought that was so weird. I was like, was something cut, or is this just like a weird? Like
I wouldn't be surprised, no matter the explanation. To be honest with you, like based on the Australian sense of humor and the Yorgos Lanthimos approach, and like I agree with you that you expect it to go 1,000 different places that it doesn't wind up going. Where it winds up is this very claustrophobic, kind of ugly place.
Right.
And that, I think, was really like, in a sense, that it bucks tradition and convention to wind up in this place was like the coolest thing it could have done, because it could have gone to the very expected place where it sets up so-and-so. But it doesn't really behave like a normal movie in that way. Like you're saying that in a traditional film, they set up the blank will be used. But it doesn't really...
Or somebody thinks it's a blank, they'll kill somebody.
If you would ask him, I think he would probably say something about the gun is symbolic of something else.
Right, exactly.
And the gun does actually go off in the end, but it wasn't the gun to begin with or something like that.
Man, they've got some like fucking like Revenant level pranks, like when she like has like the sponge with lye and it's like covered in like her hands burning. All I could think of was like the Fight Club line where it's just kind of like, if you put it in water, it's just going to hurt worse. Like then she does go in water and she feels some relief. I was like, oh, I wish that was like, I wish it was just like, oh fuck, like it's even worse or whatever. But I don't know why I'm going into like the parts that I didn't like, because I do like this. And then also, I do love the scene where she's kind of poisoned and she's on the horse or whatever. But when she comes back, she has like this kind of like lace over her head and she kind of looks like over her face. And I've heard a lot of people compliment that, but I feel like she looks like some sort of like weird anime character or something, or she looks like an off-brand Bond villain or something.
I took that as like that character's adaptability. Like she got fucked over
That's
by Emma
true.
Stone, and she's like, I'm going to turn this into a fashion
Right.
statement. And
Yeah.
like,
No,
I will survive.
it's funny.
I'm
You-
definitely taking that from just like an aesthetic point
No,
of view.
yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. No, it's funny. It's, you say that like Bond villain thing. It kind of like. Do you remember? Did you guys see From Russia with Love?
Yes.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
Lottie Lenya, I think, would have done exactly that same thing. Like, I
Right,
feel
yeah.
like it's a very Brechtian idea of taking your weakness and turning it into this performative thing. But I think again, that's sort of that's if anything, what you can distill is the thing that Yorgos Lanthimos brings to this, which is we're going to take every weak spot we have and wear it on our faces.
Oh, yeah.
You know. But no, I honestly I want you guys to express the things that you are dissatisfied with the movie, because I really did enjoy this film, but I don't know. I want to understand the stuff that it doesn't do well for everyone who wasn't charmed by it, because he's such a slippery filmmaker, and his whole aesthetic is this kind of wry detachment. And I just kind of want to know, the stuff that isn't 100%. Because again, this is like, we're at a very weird point right now in like cinephilia and history and criticism. Like I remember
Definitely.
reading a thing not long ago where somebody was like, if Yorgos Lanthimos isn't your favorite filmmaker, then you're not a real like film fan.
Yikes.
Like, he's like, this is the problem. I think he's like very in danger.
all of Twitter.
I know, right? I know.
You don't like my thing. How do you like anything?
Exactly.
Film
that's
Twitter,
That's what I'm worried about, is that like I don't want him to become the art house Christopher Nolan. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I want to be aware of the stuff that he's not doing well, because he has more or less always worked for me. But I don't want to be like fascistic about like, oh yeah, everything he does is great. Like I want to know the weak spots.
Yeah.
I mean, I was blown away by Dogtooth. I saw it in college, and I was just fucking taken by it. I saw The Lobster, and I was just kind of like, this is kind of a movie, and then halfway through, it begins with a new movie when they're in the woods, and I was just kind of like, weird. And then, like, that's kind of his image, too, is he's like, I got a black heart. And, like, you're like, that's just, you see that a lot in, like, the Sacred, or Killing of a Sacred Deer.
Yeah. Nicole Kidman giving that horrible forced hand job to Bill Sage or Bill Camp.
And there's another like kind of weird. I didn't like that scene, like the hand job in this scene. I was just kind of like, that's weird. It doesn't look. It doesn't kind of look like realistic. Like I kind of like wanted him to pull like his pants down, or just like it's just kind of like it. Also, it didn't seem like totally original either. Where it's just kind of like, oh, a woman's giving a man a hand job, and it's like it's
kind of like weirdly written into the like. It's like a Phantom Thread stitching of a message into art house cinema. You know what I mean?
Thread so much throughout this.
Yeah,
movie.
right.
I don't know if it's just the
this
color
is the
tone
Phantom Thread
or the
of
time that it's coming out. Where
this,
Phantom Thread was that for me last year, where
Yeah.
I was like, I haven't liked a lot of this year, and then we just started getting a ton of great movies, at least released wide.
Oh, we
at the
said
end
that
of
off,
the year.
Mike. We watched this movie, and it was just the first movie that I was like, oh, this is an Oscar film. You know,
Yeah.
like, as opposed to all the other Oscar films that I saw, and I was like, this is not an Oscar film.
Can I?
This is Black Panther. It looks like it was filmed on a GameCube.
Yes, it does.
Why does this look like? Why does the final
Why?
fight scene look like
How do
Super
you-
Smash Brothers Melee? You know, like it's just.
How do you make Creed one of the most solid studio films of the last 25 motherfucking years?
Yes.
And then they're like, here's more money than anyone has ever seen. And you're like, let me film this on Sega CD.
Did anybody see Creed 2? I haven't heard like anything.
I was
since
gonna
that came
ask
out.
you
haven't seen
guys.
it.
I'm a little
I haven't
behind on
seen
the podcast. Did you guys see Creed 2?
No,
I haven't.
I want to see it.
didn't-
When I was
like, it didn't, like-
unemployed, I was almost an extra in it. And then I got employed, and I was like, oh, I can't take off like my third day. But I was about to be, I like sent them a headshot and everything. I was about to be like somebody in like, like the box seating in like the final fight. And I was going to be like, I was so sad I couldn't be in it because I love Creed.
Break his nose, Adonis!
Sweep the leg!
Kick his ass, stupid movie.
That's right. That's right. Oh my god. Well, no, but like I really want to see Creed 2. Like I
I loved Creed, but like I haven't heard anything about Creed 2 since it came out.
Same.
Same.
Positive
the
or
response
negative.
was
It just-
very
it just-
muted.
It dropped. and that
was.
it.
I'm like
That's
I'm,
more concerning than negative
Yeah.
responses almost.
I'm
yeah.
like nervous that the franchise is over, which is a shame because Dolph Lundgren's in this one, and I love me some Dolph.
Yeah. What did you guys think about? I mean, yeah, I want to know about like what did you guys think about like the fisheye lens, because like it's a period piece with modern filmmaking kind of.
I think I don't know that it paid off exactly. I get why he did it, but I don't know that it paid sort of thematic dividends. I don't know that it was very interesting grammatically. It was like, how do I unseat people? How do I see my way through to kind of, Dutch tilt this whole prestige idea?
Right.
And so I think it was kind of it was performative. It was like, here's how you guys know that a weirdo is behind the wheel of this movie. And I don't think that it paid rich, I don't think it reaped rich rewards or anything, but
It didn't take anything away from me.
right.
It didn't like pull me out of the experience as much as you might think that it would. I don't know. I think maybe he's thinking that like that fisheye will make these sort of environments feel bigger than they actually are, or smaller than they are. I can't even really get behind what his thought process is.
I don't get it exactly. It kind of reminded me. Do you remember in Mars Attacks when the alien goes to the president's bedroom to go kill it, and the one shot of the presidential bedroom is in fisheye, where it's like,
seen it.
Oh man, I don't remember that totally.
It's totally fine. It's a weird pull, but like that's kind of what it felt like, was a way to say the world in which these people live is distorted, and so here's a quick shorthand for distortion.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know that it does anything.
They almost exclusively did it in the hallway leading up to the Queen's bedroom. It's
true.
They do it in.
That's why I thought it had something to do with geography.
I mean, they do it. They do
so.
it right off the bat with kind of like there's as the carriage is kind of turning a corner on a dirt road.
First, minute of this movie.
That's fine. You didn't miss much. But
She was in the mud when I came in.
like there's some points where like I'm like, oh, like the wide angle like emphasizes the surroundings, and it's like it represents, or like you're able to see like the vast gulf between like the haves and the have-nots, because that's kind of a part of this film, right? Where it's just kind of like, oh, they shit in the streets, and like compared to like, oh, we're throwing fruit at naked men because that's our entertainment, and we're being hella decadent.
Was
right
a
now.
lot of fun.
Yeah, it's
great.
Well, it's literally pointless. Besides showing how decadent they are, but I'm not one of those people who are like, why didn't they shoot this like a more conventional film? Like, why isn't this classically shot? Because it's like a period piece. But like, there are some parts that bothered me, like near the end when Rachel Weisz's character is like penning a letter to the Queen or whatever. It's shot in like a really high frame rate, and it feels like it looks weird. It looks like Masterpiece Theater or something. Like, it's weird. Like, I was just like, where did this come from? Like, it's one shot, and I was just like, what is this? It was just like
another sort of weird thing that he does throughout that I couldn't fully understand his interpretation of it is that, like, especially in the beginning, a lot of the shots are from underneath characters.
I was about to say that.
But it's for everyone. It's not like, oh, we're all, like, even for Emma Stone, they're
Shot
shooting
from below.
her from underneath
Mm-hmm.
when she's in a lower status.
It makes them look domineering, but then they do it to everybody, and I'm like,
so it was just aesthetic then.
Yes. I think that
shooting those beautiful ceilings.
That's like a kind of a court painter shorthand. Y'all see Passion of Joan of Arc?
No.
1928. So anyway, that has worked its way into modern filmmaking as a kind of shorthand. I want to say that it was David Fincher's Alien 3 that brought it there, but maybe that's me projecting. It was the idea is that you're dealing with godly authorities through one way or the other. You're dealing with somebody who thinks they were sent by God. Joan were the religious authorities in France and England who are trying her. And so you've got this kind of thing where these people are imposing figures, and behind them is the ceiling, and the ceiling behind them is God. Right. And so I don't think it's a decision so much as it's a sort of an echo of a decision.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I get it, but
just a reference.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah,
but I think you guys are right that it doesn't necessarily bring anything to the table. It's just like, here's how you handle period stuff, because it's either the full-on Barry Lyndon where everybody's part of the horizontal, the frame, like this, like it's a court painting, like it's Rembrandt's Night Watching, or it's from below, because that's Dreyer figuring out how you frame court and God in conversation. So.
Right. Yeah, I mean, something I did like about the camera is that there are very few close-ups, and when they did go into a close-up, it was just kind of like, oh, you better fucking pay attention, because they're about to say something important. In a year where we're trending towards like, like A Star Is Born is shot fucking entirely in close-ups. Like, they're in the fucking shallows, depth of field, you know, I've already used that joke. But it's...
How fucking dare you using your secondhand sloppy material on me?
I'm gonna use it again.
It's fucking ridiculous.
I do, like, also vaguely remember reading an article about this a while ago where maybe they talked to Yorgos or maybe the cinematographer where they are shooting... I think in like a real fucking landmark or something, and it's kind of like, oh god, we didn't have any lighting or anything that we could artificially add, and you know, like I think some of the fisheye angles are just lack of space or something.
Yeah.
So I think it could just be it could just be something like that.
Just trying to work.
At least it's
around.
not like the King's Speech where they're fucking shooting on
King's
like
Speech.
a porno set. Like you guys ever see that tweet where it's just kind of like Colin Firth, like I don't know, like the set they used was like they've used for like several pornos in like England or something. Yeah, it was just kind of like, oh, this isn't like even a historic place they shot.
Anybody
It
order
was
a pizza?
pizza. Like somebody put on headphones on them. Yeah. Okay.
I've got my sausage pizza delivery. Has anybody signed for this? Fucking fuck.
Curse words.
I did like.
Oh, you're gonna be faffing around, am I the bleeding queen? Oh, you're in a secret society then? What do I do? You defend the queen from pizza delivery men?
Sounds like
plumbers.
Lin-Manuel and Mary Poppins.
Oh man,
I'm
He's
so
bad,
I'm
man.
so jealous you guys saw it, but also no fucking thank you.
Again, there was a BMX and parkour dance number for 6 minutes.
It would have been a great nap if I
8
didn't
minutes.
have to do this podcast.
Great nap.
It's a thing where you're not even tired and you kind of gotta like pound your leg to like stay awake during some numbers. Yeah.
I remember when they announced it on the internet. They were like, Lin-Manuel Miranda's gonna rap in the movie.
Oh, he does.
Oh,
And my response, I tweeted, I was like, well, my name is me, and I'm here to say no fucking thank you. Please go away. I can't even fucking believe they did that.
Oh, he's got such like a thinly veiled kind of like Cockney accent,
Oh,
but
yikes.
underneath of it, you can tell like he's just like waiting to be like, oh, I'm not gonna miss my shot. He's just he's waiting for it. He wants to so bad. Like,
Check out a review of Mary Poppins 2 weeks ago.
Holy shit. Who did you guys have on for Mary Poppins?
oh, it was just us.
us.
Nobody wanted to commit to that one. Yes.
Of course. Holy shit. Oh my god. Oh man.
All right, what else do we got about this movie?
I did
We're
like.
talking like really big picture for most of this. We haven't really
There
gotten any
are-
of the
no, I mean,
specifics of the plot.
Well,
or-
that's I think what like if I at the risk of controversy, it's a movie that I think works if you don't pick apart each scene.
yeah.
I think that
Yeah.
it's a nice overall kind of I don't know, it's like a nice wash. Like I usually with movies like this that are so peculiar, I kind of want to like get into why the hows and whys.
Why did
but
that scene happen? Right, yeah.
I think it's like it's a macro success, and the micro things maybe don't work. You know, whatever the shooting decisions or this and that performance note. But I think Olivia Colman is fucking terrific.
And Emma and Rachel as well.
Emma Stone doing great work for the first time in like 3 years.
I was about to say I don't like Emma Stone.
Emma
either.
might earn the Oscar she won for La La Land.
Did she actually win an Oscar for La La Land?
I'm pretty sure she did, right?
I think
Emma, yes, yeah.
That's not.
I remember being angry about it.
This is almost as bad as the time that Jennifer Lawrence won over Emmanuel Senior for fucking Amour. And she literally says, "Happy birthday, Emmanuel," in the acceptance speech. And I was like, you don't deserve this award. You might have for fucking Winter's Bone, but you don't deserve it now.
Yeah. Oh man, I do. I mean, there are things that I do like. You know, if I don't like the hand job scene, I do like the...
If I don't like the hand job.
If I don't like the hand job scene, well, I do like the courting scene, where like the courting scene between those two characters, like the Emma Stone and
I thought it was really well
it was,
handled.
they were kind of like tackling each other,
Word.
like in the woods.
Yeah, that was nice.
It was weird.
It was
and
playful.
It
and
was
weird.
just
That
exactly.
setting, I think, is also what really reminded me of
Fan of Thread. Yeah, where she's looking for the mushrooms.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's poisoning involved.
No, I thought that's the thing. I think like maybe going forward, Yorgos Lanthimos can learn this lesson. But I think that like being able to throw his weirdness at a traditional screenplay kind of brings out the odd masochism of whatever the material is in a way that it wouldn't be if he wrote it himself. Because when he's doing it, when he's in charge of everything, you know right away. You're like, oh, that's weird and this is second.
Right.
Yeah, it's his weird tendencies on a traditional script, whereas Lobster and Killing of a Sacred Deer, it's a weird script and
his weird
filmmaker
tendencies.
making it.
And I think that like Killing of a Sacred Deer was like too oppressively strange from end to end that I wound up kind of pulling little elements that I liked, like the camera following people as they walk down hallways from like up in the air. I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. You don't see that all that often. But like in general, it was so pleased with itself for being so strange that it didn't really.
I thought it was,
it was strange for strange
than
sake
Lobster,
sometimes. Yeah.
At least in the screenplay.
You think it was more accessible than Lobster?
The screenplay, at least. Like Lobster, I was like, I feel like I don't follow exactly what you want me to think of this metaphor that you're putting out here.
Well, the metaphor made no sense. I mean, like, not to... I love the dude, but the Lobster doesn't make any fucking sense. It's not a metaphor for anything.
Yeah.
It's really just a movie about a bad breakup that he tried to throw in all these sci-fi trappings.
Yes.
It was like if you were in a bad breakup and somebody's like, you want to make Logan's Run? He's like, yes, I do. You know, like, it's charitable to call all that on purpose. I think that there's a lot of happy accident stuff going on for those two films. Whereas I think Alps and Dogtooth are a little purer in intention. But, you know, again, and I think that it's always going to be fun to talk about his movies if we don't elevate him to this place where he's like somebody we can't criticize. Yeah. If we don't turn him into a fucking rock star and he keeps making weirdo fringe movies, then like, sure, what's the harm? You know, it's the Chris Nolan thing. When he's making The Prestige and everybody's like, oh, that's fun. That's fine. But when he's making $1 trillion movies that we're not allowed to dislike, that's where the problems begin.
Yep.
Emma Stone did win for La La Land.
Oh my god, that's such a bummer. That movie sucks so bad. Damien Chazelle can blow me. I hate that guy so much. He just...
You don't even like Whiplash? Or?
I don't even like Whiplash.
Oh, see, I love Whiplash, and then I saw La La Land, and I was like, oh,
Whiplash
fucking
sucks
kill
now,
me.
doesn't it? Yeah. No, well, the problem with Whiplash is I forget even who the hell it was. I saw it at New York Film Festival in 2014. I was like, oh, it's fun. I walk out, and somebody's like, that sucked. I was like, what are you talking about? It was fun. Come on, Scrooge. What's the matter? He's like, it was produced by Jason Reitman. It's the same Jason Reitman narrative about the, like, you know, holy bad guy. I was like,
ooh. I never thought about it like that.
Fuck. No, trust me, I was bummed as hell because I was like, and then, of course, I was like, fuck, you're right. Shit.
What did you think of First Man?
First Man is Ryan Gosling at his kitchen table looking sad.
Right, yeah. No, I get that.
And I really, like, this is okay.
I will not be upset if that is not up for Best Picture. It was okay.
It was perfectly fine. It was like, and
but it was one of the better movies we've saw this
year. Well, that's the problem,
yes.
I think, and that's why it'll wind up in the conversation, because when you're dealing with films at a certain budget level, like, it sure looks wild that it's just like a guy at his kitchen table. Well, the moon is there. It's like, you know what I think about? Do you guys know Dana Gould is a stand-up comedian before he was the head writer on The Simpsons?
No.
Yeah.
So he had a bit about advertising, and he was talking about how when he was a kid, he used to do things like he wondered where, you know, like, ideas came from and how they advertised. Like, fork from the makers of Spoon. And he came up with, like, he was talking about, like, landing on the moon and all that, and how One Small Step for Man was actually workshopped. It wasn't spontaneous. They actually, like, came up with the thing, like, what are you going to say when you get to the moon? Like, we got to think about this. So it's One Small Step for a Man, but he shortened it and he made it One Small Step for Man, and it was better. And he's like, yeah, you didn't fucking make that up.
Right.
It's like, what are you going to say when you get to the moon? Fuck the Russians. Holy shit, the moon. And that's what I thought of when I thought of this. It's just this movie where it's like a sad fucking dude who has nothing in his life, and he's just like, his children are disappointments. And then he gets to the moon and he's just like, Step for Man.
Still sad.
How about I take you out in the back and kick your teeth down your fucking throat?
Check out a review of First Man.
Weeks ago.
I mean, my biggest complaint with that movie was it was just shaking for an hour. It was just,
yep. Dude, that shit where you're just like, make sure the camera is just doing this. That was how I felt watching that movie in the deaf community. Did you guys see, what the fuck was it called? The Tribe? No. It's a Ukrainian movie set at a deaf school. It's terrible. And that applies where it's just like, I can't believe how cool this is. You can't even hold the camera still.
Cameras don't have to be on tripods. You guys know we can do this.
I know you've heard of shaky cam, but
That's right.
have you heard of seizure cam? I can't believe
Come on! I saw it in my head a minute ago. Now I'm standing on it. What am I gonna do?
I was on the earth 2 days ago.
Moon!
Oh, God. Oh, apologies for anyone listening with headphones.
I'm so sorry, but it's true. Oh my god, it's so funny. Holy shit. It's been a long day, folks. I woke up in Queens at 9. I went to bed at 3 in the morning. Oh my god.
Hey folks, I'm an up-and-coming filmmaker. I want you to go to Doritos.com/Super Bowl vote, and I want you to vote for my film. I mean commercial. A dad wants Doritos and the mom's not gonna let him. I want you to click vote. This is gonna be my big break, baby.
Welcome to Screenwriting 101. If you want to get passing grade, I recommend you go to my website. You vote for my Doritos movie.
First one to get my Vimeo play count to 100 gets an A+ in this class.
We're going to be teaching from my e-textbook. You have to buy it online, and it's $500. Thank you.
Oh no. Oh.
First Man brought to you by Doritos 3D! Oh my god!
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Oh shit!
Oh, this is a third episode.
This is. Viewers from 2 other episodes are working their way.
I'm so happy I'm here for the last record of the day. I can't even fucking tell you. If I had to keep it together for the first episode, it's like, Roma sucks, you fucking dicks!
You were here for like the first one last time too.
Oh, was I in the first part of the day?
Yeah,
That's awesome, yeah.
It's a different animal
vibe.
once we get to
it's a different vibe. No, I'm really happy I'm here. I fucking hate Roma so much. I know you guys.
Check out our review last week.
It's Roma.
Next week of Roma.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Roma now on Netflix.
Watch Roma on your phone.
That's right.
But
from the director of Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban.
I don't know if we want to steer this review.
Well, I think that the nice thing about The Favorite is that I don't think that there's any glaring thing you can point to and be like, they fucked that up.
No,
because it's a movie about royalty, but it's like clearly inbred and strange, where it doesn't treat royalty as a thing you have to respect. It's not the fucking King's Speech.
Right.
It like humanizes royalty, if anything,
and brings them low.
Yeah.
Where they're all corrupt and weird, and they have these desires that they can't fess up to. And that's what I like about it, is that nobody's infallible and nobody's heroic. Mm-hmm. It's just some people with some fucked up desires.
I think like the only thing I have heard sort of levied against it in a negative sense is people feeling like the sort of like the lesbian storyline in this might felt like a modern storyline imposed on a traditional structure.
There's definitely that.
But if you look into the actual history of it, I was reading this article that my girlfriend sent me because we were looking it up, because we did kind of have that feeling of like, is that real? And we looked it up, and supposedly there are a lot of evidence of, through these letters that this movie is based on between Sarah and Abigail and Anne, it's the society where like we kind of like
it's faithful in spirit, if nothing else.
We went from like society evolving from like early man, for hundreds of years,
right?
And then we sort of went through this like in our life or our like parents' lifetimes rather, this sort of everything condensing down to like the nuclear family unit
Yeah.
and like marriage, and like before that, like it wasn't so like monogamous and strict in that sense, you know, like you had your person that you married for culture or society and whatnot, but it wasn't like, oh, the person I marry is the only person I have sex with. That's it. Like that's the only thing my wife is for.
That's a
Right.
fairly
Right.
modern
It
convention.
had more to do with economics and stuff like that. And
Right. It's a title in this movie where Emma
and it was
Stone
also the
gets, yeah.
society where like you literally had people who were dressing you and undressing you every day of the same sex, and like you know, who are we to say that like, oh, they were only interested in men and women at that
Well,
time.
I think
you know?
that that's
It's also like gay didn't start existing at any point. It just kind of
yeah.
you know,
was.
like it's
Yeah.
always been a sexual preference.
Yeah, and I think that that's kind of awesome. That it's a movie that essentially needs you to catch up with it, and its idea that sexuality is completely amorphous.
And it does still acknowledge that, like, in society at that time, they did have to keep it a secret. That's a whole integral part
Right.
of the plot.
Well, because
without trying to brush that itself.
they all
under
sent
the
their
rug.
husbands off to go fight wars for them and stuff.
Yeah.
Like that. Well,
Right,
that's my favorite little moment, and I imagine that's like a Tony McNamara thing where like Rachel Weisz deliberately causes conflict to get her husband out of the house so she can fuck Queen Anne. Like,
Right, yeah.
I loved that. I was like, that's so petty. That's so perfect. Like that. That kind of stuff. I think the movie does really well. Is the very relatable pettiness of royalty.
I did love the sort of end to her storyline where like the troops are like riding up, and what does she say? Like,
She's like, "Oh, the mail's here." Yes, yeah. Huh?
or something like, like I think we should take a trip or
Right,
something
yes.
like that.
Yeah. I don't feel like living here. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think so to move back the narrative here to the kind of film landscape, I think this is like the best outcome for Oscar bait, where it's actually
Oh my gosh.
interesting.
Yeah, this isn't the darkest hour.
Fuck yeah, dude! Darkest Hour sucks so bad.
I really hope you didn't like. Okay, good. Thank you.
Fucking so bad.
That was a painful episode. We're just like, what was? Oh,
Oh,
God,
it was so
man.
bad. Oh my god, Darkest Hour. Holy shit.
He won.
Did he win? I forgot that he won.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
You're never gonna find me.
Despite the fact that he like beat his wife while she was holding his kid. Yeah.
That's all, folks.
It is like viewing this through the Oscar gold glasses. You're kind
It's
of
an
like
actual movie.
right. You're
Which
like,
Darkest Hour is not.
oh god, and it's like every period piece is a fucking drag.
It's a snooze.
yeah, and it's just like, oh, well.
Today we call them computers. Such a pathetic mess. Yeah, dude. Well, yeah, no, it's true. Darkest Hour was like if you like fed a computer Sakharov, and then the computer had to make its own Sakharov movie, they'd make Darkest Hour.
Right.
I fucking hate Joe Wright, and I hate saying that I hate him because fucking Anna Karenina is actually really good. You guys can disagree with me all you like. I'm not gonna be mad.
No, I haven't
No,
actually seen it.
no, I do like it. Yeah.
I love Anna
Yeah.
Karenina, and I'm just like, hey Joe, what the fuck is wrong with you that you can't do this every time, and instead you gotta make fucking Darkest Hour and
no, I know.
fucking Atonement.
Right. I don't know. Is it they're trying
Fatuous-
to make Oscar bait, or is
Probably.
it's just like,
Well,
I want more prestige on my name?
I think that the
don't know.
British film industry has a portion of themselves, the Bevins, the Tim Bevins, and whatnot, where
Right.
they need to feed into the U.S. box office,
Yep.
where they have to give us
Yep.
this bullshit mirror image version of prestige garbage, and I just fucking am so sick of it. I hate it so much. I just like.
Yeah, there's something about Darkest Hour that's just kind of like, oh, Gary Oldman plays Winston Churchill in a period piece.
With the fact that-
hand me the Oscar.
And the bitches.
Yeah.
It's fucking so stupid. I can't.
But yeah,
believe.
I mean, like
But
you were
this
saying
is-
about this movie, it's an actual movie. Like it didn't have to be a period piece. This
Right.
this
could very-
structure of this plot in these relations between these characters, like I said, it could be Mean Girls. It could be something.
Right.
I could easily see this being like a modern movie. And
Agree.
They're on their cell phones, like being like, "Oh, take me back" or whatever, rather
Right.
than writing letters.
right.
And-
Yeah, well, the ending totally drives home your point there. Where about like literally all it is you make a decision to spare your pride, and you wind up missing the people on the other side of it.
Yeah.
and that absolutely could be any time period at all. It's to flatter it slightly. It's a bit Derek Jarman in that it takes modern emotional logic to an ancient story. I don't think it's as good as the best Jarman. I think it's at least as good as Jubilee, which is a movie I don't like. But anyway, that's clearly where it's aiming, is this punk rock, antiqueness.
Yeah.
And I think that it more or less hits the mark. I don't think that it's offensive, and I don't think that it's bad. I had a fun time watching it. I laughed, and I liked the aesthetics. I liked the costumes. I liked the sets. I liked the lighting. I even liked the stupid fisheye. It was kind of a win-win for me.
It felt really singular too, which, I mean, if anyone who was listening to this podcast knows, that's how to get into my heart.
I was going to say, are they going to drink now? Is that like a drinking game?
Anytime Mike talks about a singular vision for the film, but like you could take any screenshot from this movie and that's the favorite. Like you can recognize it right away.
Word.
Like everything feels like it's part of the same movie, which I feel like I shouldn't have to make that a criteria for a good movie, but there's so many movies made now that can't just stay in the same vision, like the color grading is different in different scenes, or they shoot with a different camera and it just completely throws the look off, or this feels like the same movie through and through, and in a really good way.
I mean, except the fisheye and like
but even that feels like a part of the tone.
The higher kind of
It's I see what you're getting at,
right?
Which is that it feels a little random, but I think that the sort of anarchy of that decision for
definitely.
no real reason kind of feeds into it being itself.
Yeah, it's part of the character of the way that the film sort of looks like.
I know I said near the front end of this podcast, I was just kind of like, I watched the movie and then I watched the ending and I was like, yeah, sure. Right. I believe this if this was the beginning. But it has, I failed to mention that it has kind of grown on me. It's kind of like this, like, the ending, I don't know why it reminded me of like P.T. Anderson, like just kind of
I
like
see that.
It kind of looks like the way that like everything's kind of like overlaid. It almost looks like the poster for The Master,
I will
kind
tell
of
you,
like kaleidoscope-esque kind of.
I can see that connection because there is something in double exposures that is a handmade procedure. It is an age-old process that especially comes from early avant-garde films. I'm speaking specifically of like Jean Epstein or Jermaine Delac in the late 20s. There's something to actually having to make that decision and put those films over. I mean, even if it's just digital editing, because I do double exposure all the fucking time in my own movies, it's you have to make that choice.
Right.
And so I can absolutely see that being like, oh, I associate this with other filmmakers who are also thinking very specifically about how to exert their influence on even the smallest images. So that makes a ton of sense to me.
Oh, definitely. Right.
Yeah.
But no, the end does end up being this kind of like Twilight Zone-esque end where it's kind of like
you become the thing that you hate.
Yeah, like be careful what you wish for; it might just come true.
Kind of a
and the queen is like reasserting her dominance, and it's kind of like you may be the favorite right now, but I'm always going to be the queen. And it's also like
and furthermore, what does it mean to actually be the favorite?
Oh yeah,
ultimately,
definitely.
The best you're going to do is still being at my beck and call.
The favorite servant. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. That's so important because
and then,
it does critique servitude and the idea of genuflecting in the direction of power.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I do love like this imagery of like multiplying rabbits,
yes,
and
good.
everything.
So good.
Just because I feel like they almost like represent like pain and like no amount of like pleasure that she is going to get from the favorite is ever going to like take away the pain that she has. And like also like it is that double exposure. Like it's kind of like she has a vision problem that kind of like plays into it. And Emma Stone has this like kind of look of resignation. And
I think Emma Stone was perfect casting because she's got such big expressive eyes.
Oh yes,
and
the huge eyes.
Can't
yes,
see what's right in front of her.
Right. Yeah, and then in the worst, I feel like the real like, I don't know, like the real thing that like shot through my heart is like when fucking like Emma Stone is like stepping on the rabbit, and that's like one of the first things
she sees it too.
That's one of the first things you identify with is like, oh man, I can't believe like Rachel Weisz doesn't even you can't even like acknowledge the rabbits, like you don't care for them, they're just rabbits kind of. And especially when you hear the backstory of like the rabbits where it's kind of like she had 17 miscarriages and she has a rabbit for each of them, and it's like when royalty had to keep up, it's like you had to like prolong I don't know.
It also I think that was great because it was really revealing for her character, because there's times where like she'll like cry earlier in the movie, and like I think Emma Stone does a great job of like cueing the audience into like, I'm fake crying here, like this is not my real emotion.
She's very good at that. I mean, like from Easy on, you could tell that she was somebody who could really project.
She's great at acting as an actress.
Yes,
but then like in the scene where she's first introduced to the rabbits, like we all kind of buy into like, oh, like she's actually making this genuine connection with the queen.
Right.
And then we see her like putting her foot on the rabbit's neck. We're like, oh, it was all
Yeah.
like fake, and like we actually fell for it ourselves.
Which is, I think, kind of crucial to the film's whole worldview, which is, in essence, that if you have to take part in society in as much as they've laid it out here, you sort of have to be black of heart. You have to be completely heartless.
Yeah.
You
Definitely.
have to be, willing to see past every single, illusion of royalty, because otherwise you're going to buy into it. And to buy into it is wrong because it's false. And that's, I think, why I like a film like this more than, say, Darkest Hour. Because it actually reckons with...
Oh, that's why?
Yes, that's right. That's it. That's the only reason.
But it's so good.
Don't get me wrong. Darkest Hour is basically a masterpiece. But... no. But that's generally the idea, is that it's a movie in conversation with the theatrics of power.
Yeah.
And knowing that, sincerity is completely contingent on the false ideal that they're building up towards. And I think any movie that draws your attention to that in the same way that it draws your attention to the mechanics of filmmaking through something as weirdly sort of pointless as the fisheye, it's good because it's a conversation starter.
Right. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. It's not, again, and I do like this movie, and I do like all of his stuff generally. It's not a masterpiece, but it's good because it gets your, your
definitely.
motor running, in a way.
Right. And it's going to have some sort of influence.
Correct.
On
in a good way.
Future filmmakers, or just filmmakers who are existing right now
Right.
who want to.
Who
maybe...
need permission to see that it's okay to treat royalty as the complete joke that it is.
Right. Yes. Exactly.
There you go.
Yeah. There's a lot of good things that this film is doing.
It's good stuff.
But yeah. Shall we get into fingers?
Yeah, I'm looking up the Screen Actors Guild nominations for ensemble. I couldn't remember if this was nominated for that, and like just talking
They've had
about
a
this
lot
now,
of
like I kind of want
acting nominations for this film, right?
Yeah, but I don't know if they got.
Well, they didn't do
because
ensemble.
was
I don't
ridiculous.
think
It
they
was
did
like-
ensemble.
It was like Bohemian Rhapsody.
Rhapsody. Oh, fucking Bohemian Rhapsody. I hope, if I may, to your listeners, to America, I hope Bryan Singer trips and lands on a pile of mousetraps, and they all wind up on his dick, which he's used to have sex with underage children on his sex island
Yep.
since time immemorial. And I hope that it prevents him from making another X-Men movie.
Yeah, so this
Because fuck Bryan Singer forever. Sorry, keep going.
no, so this wasn't nominated.
No,
for
it wasn't nominated for
outstanding
Best
performance by a
Ensemble.
cast. So you had A Star Is Born, Black Panther, Black Klansman, Bohemian Rhapsody, Crazy Rich Asians. All maybe good movies in their own right, but like, how do you not nominate the cast of this for ensemble cast?
Well, and that's especially fucking troubling because this is a movie that has basically 3 leads.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And 2 supporting guys.
Yeah,
Joe
they're all
Alwyn
great.
and Nick Holt. Joe Alwyn, I will grant you, is not the most inspiring performance, but I think
Right.
Nicholas Holt is terrific.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
He's so good in the supporting performance. I'm sorry, tell me
But
again.
like, but is every person in Black Panther worthy of the Screen Actors Guild nomination?
I will
Or-
tell you, my only Black
'cause I
Panther
could point-
opinion is that I think Andy Serkis is amazing in that movie.
There are some
Yeah, he
great
is good.
performances
Yeah.
in that, but like I think you look at the lead right away, and I'm like, is that really worthy of like a nomination? Like
Right.
Chadwick Boseman?
I don't think Chadwick Boseman. I think Chadwick Boseman did better work in Get On Up.
Yeah.
And they're not. It isn't. Like they're not performing like an ensemble cast like this.
No,
cast
it's very
is performing.
weirdly calibrated.
Right. It's like.
It's like a piece of misfiring technology.
Right. It's
the SAG
Disney
troubles me,
pumping
too.
the Marvel machine,
Yeah.
and it's like, why is that?
I don't. Yeah.
Yeah.
The SAG troubles me too because it's voted on by their peers. Like these are voted
Right.
on
Well,
by
if I
actors.
may, I don't think that the Oscar voters are much smarter. You know what I mean?
Oh, it's a combination of
But at least
all different
but at
peers
least the
from
Oscars,
different
it's
industries. Yeah.
all the guilds, it's everyone
Right, yeah.
involved in making a movie. So
Did you guys notice that most of the Screen Actors Guild nominees this year were in the first 5 categories because it was all listed alphabetically and everybody just clicked the first one? Did you notice
I
that?
didn't
Yeah,
see that.
that's
Yeah.
real. That's real.
Oh man,
A Star Is
Black-
Born, Black Panther, Black Klansman, Bohemian Rhapsody, Crazy Rich Asians.
Yep!
Oh no.
That is true on all categories. Just take a look at that for
I don't want to
Screen
watch any of
Actors.
these movies. I'll just pick
Yeah,
the first 5.
no, I
right.
genuinely
Oh,
think
boy.
that happens,
Ooh.
which is a problem for Hollywood.
Yeah. Wow.
Not that they'll ever pay for it, but still, I think that is what happened.
Yeah, I just wanted to get that in because I thought that was an
Oh, it's
outrage.
horseshit.
Like,
It's not. Well, I mean, it's like
they're all
everybody
going to get
getting
nominated.
mad.
Olivia's going to get nominated. Emma Stone's going to get nominated. Rachel Weisz is going to get nominated.
You think?
But then at the Oscars, absolutely, yeah.
I hope so, because they're all great.
I think they all will. But then
Olivia Colman is
you
the
don't
one-
nominate this for best ensemble cast.
Well,
Like,
because the Screen Actors, all these, I do this every year. I get very, very frustrated because I know that they're not going to give awards to who deserves it.
Yeah.
Okay, so like Golden Globes, it's the Hollywood Foreign Press Association, and it's literally based on who they want to hang out with.
Right.
Go back
Yes.
through history. That's it. Mm-hmm. You were either paid money or you wanted to hang out with famous people. That's the whole thing. That's it.
They're the cool Oscars, guys.
That's right. Yeah. It's I want to hang out. I want to be at the cool table at lunch. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
And the Oscars, again, the conversation starts when you make $100 million. And then they can talk about what's
But
good.
this is in the Oscars conversation, so that's
Because-
where I'm like, this met the threshold, and you still picked like Bohemian Rhapsody over this. Like, who does anything in Bohemian Rhapsody besides
the favorite wasn't
Rami Malek?
directed by like a credibly accused rapist, so like I get it. Like I get it. Like I get why they didn't want to give it a award.
Oh, I get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, time's up. Oh, by the way, Mel Gibson. You wanna be
God,
nominated
I
for
really
Best
hope
Director?
I hope Mel gets more work. You know, he's just so good. And just like
Stand up guy.
he's just terrific.
All right, let's get into ratings. Let me read the Rotten Tomatoes. On review aggregator Rotten Tomatoes, the film holds an approval rating of 94% based on 234 reviews.
Really?
And an average rating of 8.5 out of 10. The website's critical consensus reads, "The favorite sees Yorgos Lanthimos balancing a period setting against rich, timely subtext and getting roundly stellar performances from his well-chosen stars."
Do you know that a beer koozie gives you the devil horns?
Oh, yeah. It's like a little mitten.
It's good. I like
Hey, what's up, bro?
It's like E.T. at a Dio show. Dio, rock on. Anyway. I give it a 4, 3.5, 4. I was a fan. I'm a big fan. I don't think it's perfect, but it's great.
3.5 or 4.
3.5, 4, 4. 3.5, 4.
Which one?
4. I'll give it a 4.
Alright.
What do I have to lose? My credibility?
Some actual number.
Yeah, I'll give it a 4. Give it a 4.
I
I had fun.
think I'll give it 4.5. I did really like this, and maybe this is just because it's in stark contrast to everything else I've seen this year.
Yeah, you guys have to watch like a lot more shit
Yeah,
before.
like, I think this is my favorite movie of the.
I will say, by the way,
Oh, favorite.
if this gets pushed into like the upper echelon of scores for me, it's because it brings back the U in the word favorite, and I've been saying that since 7th grade. I've been
British
spelling
U.
the British
Color,
U.
favor.
I really want to bring back the British
yeah.
U.
Yeah, let's bring it back.
Let's bring it back, motherfuckers.
Let's bring it back, baby.
Baby!
Like this is kind of similar to my review of Roma next week, but like I can't really put my finger on why this isn't a perfect movie because I don't
Because you
have
get to eat the rich.
I don't have like a whole lot of like complaints.
Well,
about
no, but
this.
I think that
If there's something that's just
no.
slightly off.
This is a teachable moment right here because it doesn't matter that the movie is. If it's not perfect, don't give it the extra.
yeah.
Right,
Every
yes.
movie should have something to aspire to.
Yeah.
And that is more. It doesn't. There's no perfection. No movie is perfect except Long Day Closes. But the point is that you should always aspire to more shit. And this is good, but it's not where cinema should end.
Yeah.
And he should keep thinking about what's next. And I think it's okay to give him a fucking 4 out of 5 or a 3 out of 4
Yeah.
or whatever the shit is because there's more to do. And if a guy like this gets comfortable, we start getting the parody movies. And I don't want that. I want him to keep working.
Yes.
But I think this is clearly his best movie so far, in my opinion. I think it's his most
Interesting.
His most accessible. I haven't seen Dogtooth. Take that with a grain of salt.
No. I don't disagree with you. I just think that I hadn't considered it.
Like, because I
want him to keep
liked
making movies.
Lobster, and I liked Killing of a Sacred Deer, and I think I liked Killing of a Sacred Deer more than Lobster.
Interesting.
I felt like it started getting more accessible. Lobster was like it knew it was weird, and it was trying to be weird, and that like rubbed off on me the wrong way.
Oh, no,
where
that's
it's
totally
like,
fair.
Okay, like you know what you're doing,
Yeah.
and you just want us to look at you as the weird art house director who's doing
right.
something. Killing of a Sacred
the
Deer,
guy's
at least
carving his name
at
in
least
his desk.
fit into like a weird sort of like it wasn't totally horror, but it was trying to aspire to something more specific, and I felt like I could hone in on that. And this is clearly a very specific individual type of movie, and I appreciate that. And I like him as a screenwriter, but I think he works better clearly now when he's more focused on weird directorial choices with a more standard script that he can make some changes to that. So I'm gonna give 4.5.
All right.
Pretty
Cool.
solid on that.
Yeah, no, I'm just going to end on the same sentiment that I started with, or it is like, this is like a film about 3 females, and there is some sort of love at some point, and again, it is like this kind of film about loneliness and female friendship and the performative nature of what friendship is or whatever. But like, by virtue of the setting and the time, there's a lot of artifice to it. We said ego at some point during this film, where I love Olivia Colman is like my favorite female performance
so good
of this year so far, just because she's pure id kind of.
Yes.
And that's pretty much it. It's very Oscar Wilde at points,
Did you give it a
which I
review?
love. I'm going to give it 4.
Cool.
For some weird reason, I didn't know a lot about this film going into it, but I thought Rachel Weisz's role was played by Gabby Hoffman for the longest time, and I don't know why. They don't even really look alike either.
It would have been good.
I was just like,
Gabby Hoffman would have done good work.
I was like, why do I think that? But yeah, no, 4. It's, it's good. It's not good enough. I think Dogtooth is still his favorite film of mine.
Mm-hmm.
The Lobster might be the least favorite, just because
Wow.
Yeah.
You guys are both sort of lobster agnostics.
Yeah, because
We did like it. We gave it a positive review, but we were just kind of like,
it's just like I said. It was like they started a movie, and then it seemed like he started another movie halfway through the movie, where it's just kind of like, and now they're in the woods, and we're establishing everything all over again.
Totally
and, yeah,
fair. That's
right,
totally
yeah.
fair. No, that's interesting. I
Haven't
think
seen the Alps.
the thing that I'm excited for is that though he's made at this point 5, 6 movies, he's still got more in him.
Oh, and now he's got fucking Oscar buzz. Who knows what the fuck they're gonna put out next? Who knows? Well, who knows what they're going to trust him with? Who knows what they're going to allow him to do? Yeah, exactly.
Christ, imagine if he makes a Winston Churchill film the next. But it's exciting. It's exciting.
Maybe he'll
because
make
he's-
the next Black Panther.
Yeah, Black Panther 2, Electric Boogaloo. No, but I think in general he's a good person to have in the machine because
Oh my
he'll
God,
do
yeah.
weird shit.
Yes.
he's someone to root for at the awards this
Oh
year,
my
at
God.
the very
Fucking
least.
right.
Like,
I agree. No, yeah. No, I think this is a good thing to
and
have him
I do
where
think
he
this
is.
has a
most
strong
definitely, yeah.
chance to contend near the top.
Word.
Like I think you've got like A Star Is Born right now. Just looking at the data, shout out to Goldfingers. Check out our data-driven Oscar prediction video series on YouTube. But like Black Panther, Mary Poppins, and then The Favorite, pretty much are like the top 4 right now, based on just the precursor awards that have come out, which were accurate last year. So
Right.
this is near the top. It's been nominated for a crazy amount. Like
Cool.
mainly just because every award that is nominating is like Olivia Colman, Emma Stone, and Rachel Weisz, all 3. So it's got like an automatic 3 awards every time it's up for something.
Right.
But yeah, something to root for.
Cool.
All right. Any last plugs for where people can find Scout?
I'm everywhere at Honors Zombie or Honors_Zombie. My Patreon exists. My movies are on Vimeo and Amazon. My video essays are everywhere. Yeah, I'm pretty easy to track down if you want to hear more of my obnoxious opinions.
Yeah, a lot of content.
A lot of
content.
lot of content. No, yeah, there's a lot of stuff to find if you want to do it. I'm on Letterboxd at Honor Zombie, etc. So yeah, I'm there if you want me.
Check it all out for sure. Awesome. All right. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me,
Yeah.
guys.
Thanks so much for
glad to
coming
get you
back.
back
Oh
on the
man,
podcast.
this was.
Right.
I'm happy to be back in town, and I really appreciate you guys extending the
Yeah,
invitation.
we got to do this
Yeah.
again.
Of course.
Of course,
All
always.
right. So for us, as always, everything you can find at howmanyfingerspodcast.com. Check us out on Spotify. Listen and watch Goldfingers on YouTube. There should be a new episode out by now. By the time this drops. Yeah, and we'll see you guys next week. Goodbye? Question mark?
See you later.